Hey guys, it's D-Money Bala. Today I'm going to be reviewing this, a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I'm going to let you know all that I like about it and everything that I find difficult to use. Overall, it's a great laptop. The build quality is amazing. When I hold it in my hands, there's no sharp edges, the metal feels great, and it's just the best built laptop I've ever used. The bezels around the screen, very tiny. The screen is great. It's a 500 nit display and it's not exactly 4K, but it's better than 1080p, and everything looks really good on this monitor. I like to crank it up to full brightness all the time just because it looks so great at that brightness. Really bright, the screen as well. This Chromebook has a very nice screen in terms of nits of brightness, but this MacBook Pro just looks amazing. This is a 4K screen and it's up as bright as it can go. It's just not even as close to as bright as the MacBook Pro. Second thing I really like about it is the huge trackpad. It's really nice and it's very accurate. This was the trackpad I was using before, much smaller, really hard to move around a 4K screen with as well. I almost always had to have an external mouse here. The MacBook Pro gets the little details right. There's no rubber strip running along the bottom of it that feels weird when you're holding it in your hand against your body. The magnet in the computer that holds the screen down is not too strong. I sometimes will set my laptops on a metal laptop stand so that I can attach a keyboard and mouse and an external monitor and work that way. And my HP Spectre that I do that with, its magnet is so strong that it holds the screen down that it can hold my laptop down to that stand, and it requires a lot of force to pull it off, and it can move the stand. This laptop, you put it on there, it comes right off. The fans on this laptop are just slits on the edges and the back. They don't get in the way of the feel of the laptop very much. I've noticed that sometimes the fans can come on this laptop when I plug in and I've got 2 or 3 applications running and a few Chrome tabs open, but they don't kick on full blast. When they do kick on full blast, it can be pretty loud. If you've got headphones on, then you won't notice it as much. And I will give you a sample of what those fans at full blast sound like. This is what they sound like. I've been playing GTA for a little bit with pretty much all high settings at the full screen resolution of like 3000 by 1900. Another thing that I've noticed that is interesting is that the laptop, when I try to boot it up with my USB-C hub plugged in with Ethernet, it won't let me log in 100% of the time. Maybe like 10% of the time it'll let me log in. However, if I unplug the Ethernet from my dock, it boots up just fine. And you can attach Ethernet when you're logged in or when you've booted up the system, and then like going to sleep and coming back on doesn't require that. It's just the initial boot. An interesting thing is research has come out that you should be charging it on the right side, because if you charge on the left side, you could cause your laptop to overheat and it would lose some of its performance. So if performance is a #1 thing to you, you should be charging on the right side of this MacBook Pro. The speakers in this laptop are the best speakers I've ever heard on any laptop. They have to be heard to be believed. I mean, I watched some reviews of this laptop and I thought, oh, okay, those are cool speakers. But then when you actually hear them in person, it's hard to do that justice over the internet. But they sound really great. Going over the Geekbench scores, we can see that the single core did 1138 and the multi-core did 6829. Not bad for a laptop. And we're going to scroll down and just give you a view of all of the single core performance and the multi-core performance. Looking at the metal performance for the GPU in Geekbench 5, it scored 28,016, and I'm just going to scroll down and let you see the rest of those details. My main use case for this computer is to do video editing. I like that Final Cut Pro, you only have to pay $300 one time, but if you use Adobe Creative Cloud for all their apps, it's about $52 a month, and so that can be up to like $600 a year. So if you're going to be using all of the Adobe apps, it would cost about 6 months of what you could get Final Cut Pro for, and that lasts the whole life of your laptop or however long you're using it. And so I find that to be really cool that Apple does that. I have done mostly video editing in Premiere Pro because I get a subscription to that with my school, but I'm going to be done with school here in a few months, so I wanted something more of a long-term solution to be doing video editing on, so I'm going to be delving into Final Cut Pro. I tried to export video projects in Premiere so that I could import them into Final Cut Pro 10, but there were some issues with that. I wasn't able to import them correctly into Final Cut Pro, and I didn't want to do all the exact edits again to make the projects the same. But I will give you some idea of how long it takes to render projects with this. Now we're going to look at how Adobe Premiere Pro runs on the Mac. We can see that it plays back 4K 60 FPS footage at 2 times the speed at full resolution, no problem. And scrubbing around on the timeline feels pretty good, and it's really good, a great experience editing videos on Premiere Pro with the MacBook Pro 16-inch. To export a recent YouTube video I did about an Uller bed cooler, this laptop, that project is 2 minutes and 58 seconds of 4K 60 FPS footage shot on an iPhone 11, and in Premiere Pro I exported that to H.264 YouTube 4K preset. It took 6 minutes and 28 seconds to export that. I also tested with a similarly sized video project that is how to do a kickflip. It was one of my videos that I did recently that is mostly 4K 60 FPS, but occasionally some of the shots are 1080p at a lot of FPS, the slow-mo stuff. So that had to scale up when I exported it. And that project was 4 minutes and 2 seconds long, and it exported in 2 minutes and 36 seconds. So there's a wide disparity on video project. Final Cut Pro is supposed to be optimized even more, so it does a little bit of pre-rendering in the background, and so I will be testing that out in the future. I've been using Windows my entire life, so this is the first time I've been using Mac OS. I also use Linux at work, and I have a Chromebook that I mess around with, so I've used most of the operating systems. Mac OS is pretty easy to get used to. It's pretty intuitive. One thing that I do miss, however, from Windows laptops is a touch screen. I mean, of course, there's the touch bar here, and that can be useful when I'm using PyCharm to do Python projects, because the run command for that was like Command Option F16 or something, and to touch all those buttons on this with the touch bar, it would be a hassle. But with the touch bar, there's a shortcut to just hit the play button, so it'll run your Python scripts that you're playing with, and that's really helpful. But I do sometimes find myself reaching to touch the screen, and then I have to consciously tell myself I can't touch the screen because this laptop does not have a touch screen. But it's not that big of a hassle. I only have done it about like 5 or 6 times in the month that I've had this laptop. Overall, I'm really happy with this MacBook Pro. It's a wonderful laptop, and it's very powerful. If you've liked this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.